Hey everybody, it's Rob. I'm back. I'm going to do another walkthrough. This time we're going to do a walkthrough of a machine called Kevin um, in Offsec's Proving Grounds. And Kevin is a Windows machine rated as easy again. I've been starting with the easy machines and working my way up. So Kevin, I'll be honest with you, it's one of those machines where I looked at it for the first time. I think I spent like an hour poking around, and there was just nothing coming to mind, nothing that was, obvious to me, and I kind of just put it to the side for a couple of days while I was studying for another exam. And it's funny because I went back to Kevin a couple of days later and with a fresh perspective on the whole situation, and I had root on the box in like 15 minutes. So just goes to show you that, sometimes you just got to take a step back and reassess. And one thing I would say is, never just say, oh, that port, that doesn't mean anything. You always got to look and investigate. So without further ado, let's get started. So you can see I'm connected to the Offsec VPN. I got my IP address for Kevin right here. And first and foremost, anybody who does this stuff knows first thing we did was we ran a Nmap scan. Now I've done that already to save some time because these things can take a bit of time when you're scanning all the ports. So if you look up here at the top, I did a service version detection scan, T4, all ports on the Kevin IP address. And what came back was 80, 135, 139. So, SMB, of course. This was interesting, and I spent a lot of time on this. The first time I went through the box was RDP. I immediately tried to brute force it with the username Kevin. That didn't work out for me. But, you can't blame me for trying because that's a juicy target when you see RDP, right? Then we have 3573, and then we have a couple of 49,000 ports, RPC ports. So, like I said, the first time I went through this machine, I focused on SMB and RDP, and I didn't really see anything obvious. I tried, Eternal Blue, all that stuff. Tried brute force and RDP, like I said, and nothing seemed to work. So this time, and I did go to the website. It's got a website running on port 80, and we're going to do that. So this go around, I went right to the website, and it's HP Power Manager. Now, the first thing I did, and the first thing I would suggest everybody does when they do these machines, is when you get to a login page like this, and it's a well-known program, you immediately go Google what the default credentials are. So that's exactly what I did. And it says right here, the default password for admin is admin. So lo and behold, I went in and I typed admin, and it let me in. Now my moment of joy quickly darkened when I realized that there was really nothing here. I looked at all of this, the setup. If you click on any of these, UPS is not connected. It just brings up these boxes telling you how to troubleshoot it. Logs, there wasn't really much in there. You see that admin is logged in and that the service is started. There's really nothing helpful, right? You go to setup, and basically all you can do is set up users. So, thinking this was a dead end, I said, well, there was another port that was open. If you look at the Nmap scan, 3573, and that's not one that I'm familiar with, and it also mentions UPS. So I said, well, that's got to kind of work hand in hand with this power manager, I'm guessing. So essentially what I did was I went and I looked, and I just said, port 3573, because I wasn't real familiar with it. And the first thing that popped up was this Hewlett-Packard Power Manager Administration exploit on exploit DB. And this port is definitely related to the Power Manager application. So I looked at this, and if you click on this link right here, there's some exploit code for a buffer overflow, which are always great, because if you can, you know, execute a buffer overflow 9 times out of 10, you know, you're going to get something juicy like a reverse shell or a shell, right? So spoiler alert, I'll go through this with you, but this particular exploit did not work. I immediately went and tried this. It says that it should spawn a shell that you can bind to on port 444. If you look, the usage for this is netcat v the IP address and then 4444. So you're basically, it's a bind shell, right? So we're going to go through this. I'm just going to copy this code. It's Python, which if you don't know Python, you should not become an expert in it, but you should definitely read a couple books and get familiar with what is going on in Python. Now, it is Python, but there's some shell code in here as well. So, and you know, you're not going to be able to understand what's going on here unless you're, you know, you understand the intricacies of shell code, which I don't. I just started learning a little bit about assembler, and my head hurts. So anyway, we're going to copy this. We're going to go to a terminal, and we're going to do nano. We're going to do exploit.py. We're going to copy in that exploit code. And I always like to clean it up at the end. You can see there's some garbage there right to the end. Okay, Control O to save it, Control X to exit. Now we have to do chmod u plus x to give the Python script executable permissions, and then we can run this. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let's just look. I believe you have to just specify the IP address. Yeah, so it's the executable, whatever you called it, the py script, and then the IP address. So let me just grab my IP address again. This is the IP address of the Kevin machine. So we're going to do exploit, and I think that's the right IP address. So we're going to just run that. Let me just make sure. 205.45, 205.45. Yep. So we'll run this. Now, it happens real quick, and then it tells you to check the IP address at port 4444. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to open another shell, another terminal, and we're going to do netcat v. We're going to paste the IP address on port 4444. Now, this would be funny if this works now, but I tried this probably a dozen times and it didn't work for me when I did it. So nothing there. Connection refused. So it said it could take up to a minute. And what I think I'll do is I'll do this. Okay. So we're using the right IP address. We're on the right port. We'll try again. Nothing. Wait a few more minutes. More seconds. Try again. Nothing. 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 Like I said, I tried this probably for a good 5 minutes and I never got anything out of this. It just did not work for me, this exploit. So, what do you do according to Offsec when something doesn't go right? You try harder, right? So, essentially, I knew there was an opportunity here. It was just a matter of how do I figure out how to exploit this. So I took the CVE number, which was 2009 2685, and I did a Google search for 2009-2685 exploit. And, you know, a couple of things came up. The one that really looked promising to me was this one. So I clicked on this one, and actually it takes you, you could use this one, but it said this is a version that is modified of the original exploit by Mohammed Hadari. Apologize, Mohammed, for butchering your name, which I'm sure I did. So I just went to his website and got the code right there. So again, should look very familiar. It's a Python script that has some shell code in it. And this one is a little bit more interesting because what it does is it pops a shell in the same window, right? So you don't have to set up a listener. You don't have to do anything, right? It takes care of all of that. And there's the shell code right there. So copy all of this. We go to our terminal, and we're going to do nano exploit 2.py, and we're going to paste in the code. Again, clean it up, right? Now, he does mention here that if you don't get a bind shell, you may have to bump it up to a minute. So change the sleep timer from 30 seconds to 60 seconds right here. This is where it's kind of helpful to be able to figure out what this code is doing. And if you look, it's automatically connecting to the shell, which is a nice touch on 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to give this a whirl. Control O, Control X, chmod u plus x exploit, and this is actually exploit 2.py. And then the way to use this is, again, you just do the IP address with the script. So once again, I'll come over here, grab the IP address, and then we'll do exploit, and actually we just come in here and add a 2. So we're going to hit enter. It says give me 30 seconds, the payload's been fired. So we're going to give him 30 seconds. And boom, we are connected. And if I type who am I, NT authority system. So what you would do in this case is you'd go cd users dir cd man. I don't know if the flag was in administrator or Kevin, but we're going to look in both. So dir, and we'll do cd desktop dir. There's the proof right there. So actually we have to do type. This is Windows proof.txt flag. So this one, like I said, the first time I went through it, I went down and this is where you got to be careful. Like I've heard time and time again when you're doing the OSCP that you can get roped into these rabbit holes. And, you know, to me, RDP and SMB are just such juicy targets. I spent probably a good hour and a half trying to exploit those two services when it just wasn't happening. Where, you know, if you take the road a little less traveled, I mean, I did check the website, but I just ignored that port, that additional port. This one, 3573. It just didn't look interesting to me. I just moved on, and it turned out to be the key to salvation, the way in. So I would highly suggest that you just don't take anything for granted. It's more often than not right there for you to grab. Like I said, if I would have done that first, I would have had root on that machine in 10 minutes, right? if you're taking the OSCP and you can get root on one of those standalone machines in 10 minutes, man, that's got to be something that really gives you a boost of confidence, right? To have one of those machines out of the way that quickly. So, like Offsec says, just try harder and maybe sometimes focus on that road that's less traveled, the not so obvious target. Anyway, that's how we got the root flag on this machine. It was a really quick win for me. The second time I looked at this machine. So I'm going to be doing more walkthroughs as I keep going through my studies for the OSCP, and I hope this video helped you out. And if anybody has any questions, let me know. Thanks, guys. Bye.